Greetings.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
Uh, there's a couple little things that I want to cover with you. I also want to check on a couple of people that were having technical obstacles. Uh, it's going to be a Photoshop day today, right? And in a moment or two, I'm going to be looking at the handout, which I often do really to make sure I don't forget to cover anything with you guys. Kevin, I wanted to ask you, did you have any luck accessing the Adobe Creative Cloud yet? I know you were having some issues with that. Still didn't. Did you write the service desk?
Yeah, I did write the service desk.
Did they write you back?
Not yet.
Not yet. So, I think I'm going to have to jump over their heads. That's what I was told to ask you to do. I'm just kind of curious. Were you interested in all in trying the remote access road?
Yeah, I am interested. I think that's gonna be my next attempt.
Right.
What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. I'm most likely gonna be able. I'm gonna attempt remote access like probably on I either tomorrow or Thursday because I have to catch a flight tomorrow. I have to be in Houston for a business meeting.
Wow.
But
That sounds kind of exciting. That always sounds fancy, right? Just make sure they serve
really
you a
excited.
martini.
Oh, no, not a martini. No way. I'm gonna be doing
All right.
work on the double time, but yeah.
All right. Well, look, do what you can, and obviously, I'm going to say what everyone's going to say. Be as safe as possible on that plane. So, I am the head of the department has been following like all of our adventure stories, and doing what he can to make this a little bit smoother. Given the number of technical obstacles that we have. So, I really so far I've just had two people who've really gotten it worst. So I'm going to see what I could do. Listen, I also, Chris, I wanted to ask you, you there? So look, everybody, as I said before, video cameras are required unless you've got some really good reason and you let me know in advance. If I already okayed in advance your visual absence, then you don't have to have the camera on. But other than that, in the class, I take attendance, I take attendance. I look to see how you're doing. So it really isn't acceptable to hide in my class. Even though you're all too responsible to zoom in and leave. But on occasion, I'll actually ask someone a question whose camera's not on and there's no answer, rather mysteriously. Anyway, I want to drop that subject, but I am talking to 2, 4, 6, 8 of you right now who need to turn your cameras on unless you have let me know why you're not doing that. Like eating. And if you're uncomfortable eating, you could eat for a bit and then turn the camera on afterwards. All right, I want to drop that. Let's take a look at the handout, right? So I could jump to it as best as I can. Chris, I just wanted to ask you quickly, because last time we saw each other with Anne's, guidance, we, tried to get you into remote access. Has that been the successful road for you, or?
Yeah, I got into Photoshop with it.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right, so we're moving forward. So, Kevin, that's encouraging, isn't it? So listen, I want to tell everybody, like, one, why have I been avoiding the remote access? Because I'm not sure we're going to need it at all if we can get all the Adobe accounts to work, especially because I don't want to get too excited about this. But, the original date we were given was September 30th, and this whole free Adobe Creative Cloud thing was going to end. But I had a hunch Adobe wasn't going to do it because a few times already since March, they extended it. So now my boss said that the school is negotiating with Adobe. And it's looking very promising. They're going to come up with some kind of arrangement for us. And if that comes through, you'll have more than one way to log in, which means for example, for whatever reason, when the school does it business style directly with Adobe, people could log in with Gmail accounts. There's more options in how to get into that account. So I really do hope that works. It would save us a lot of bother. So then the remote access just becomes the backup plan. So anyway, yes, Chris.
Um, so we would only get to use it for free through the school, right? Basically, because if we use it on our own, it won't be free, right?
No, but you're a student at the school, so you
Yeah.
could use it as long as it's open. You can do whatever you want with it at home. Once that comes through. Again, like you had trouble getting into your account. The only thing that would change for you is, as I understand it, see, we've been relying on Adobe's. All students on planet Earth can have this for a month or 2 months because of COVID. That was the arrangement, which expires on the 30th. But if it continues beyond that, what's actually going on is it would be a business arrangement with our school uniquely. So it'll be a little different. Everyone could continue with the same logins who are succeeding with that. But those who aren't, they'll have other ways to log in. It was odd. When we used to have it at school, there was only 1 or 2 semesters where you actually had to log in. Before that, you just opened the software. But people were logging in with their Gmail accounts. It was odd. I don't really grasp how that worked, but it did let us do that. So for right now, everybody stick with what you've got. The couple people who have been in contact with me who are upfront about it not working, there's been very few, so I have to stop the subject, deal with them as individuals, right? So I'm going to drop it right now. I will keep you posted, though, if there's any changes on that login system. And if that goes through, you won't have to use remote access anymore. So that's what I've been told.
I mean, I kind of gave up and bought the license, so it doesn't really matter to me anymore. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I figured, like for Photoshop it was okay, but for Premiere it really is like too complicated. So I just,
So now I'm praying that Adobe comes through, because we are going to do Premiere in this class. I mean, I know you've already taken some, but you're all going to love it. I mean, really, video editing is one of my favorite things to do. And I've done video editing on a lot of movies. So I really like to share that with you. It's another Adobe product. So look, for right now, let's let it ride. The one thing that I've realized in life, and definitely in school, is don't take on every battle that you think might be necessary. Take on the ones you know are necessary. Keep a little eye, because a lot of things just don't materialize. They just don't. So I think my boss would not have even mentioned it to me unless he felt like this was going to work. An extension for us at BMCC, or maybe all of CUNY, I don't know. So anyway, let's drop it. We're going to move ahead. Again, for anybody who's come and gone, some people have been emailing me. I couldn't come the other day. My internet went crazy, didn't work at all. Other people, like I have repair people coming for the internet, all these different arrangements. I relate. I understand it. I really do. That's why they're all on YouTube, so a person could back up according to your own needs. Let me just do my screen sharing. And I want to get to the handout. I do want to say one quick thing about all this. I can't help having this mildly paranoid feeling that not everybody contacts me when I ask them to. That I'm going to hear at the end of the semester from someone who's never spoken to me. Oh, I never was able to get any of the software. And I'm going to say, well, I asked you every single class for any number of classes, and now it's kind of wearing thin. Anyone who hasn't reached out to me, because they've neglected it for 8 straight classes, yeah, I'll be disturbed. Will I try to help? I guess so. But I'm going to be uncomfortable with it because we should have done this ages ago. So I'm going to assume that everybody is as good as they say they are, and those who need a hand have reached out as requested. I'm going to move forward because that's what we're here for. All right. So I don't have much to say about all this rather familiar stuff, but just quickly, last Tuesday there was a homework due. And the one thing I can do with all these strange obstacles in the pandemic period is give people extensions. But I don't want you to ignore the homework, and especially if you didn't need an extension. I don't want anyone snoozing on the job. There's 4 major homeworks. This was the easiest, right? That are going to amount to your grade. So you really can't skip any of them. So I am still accepting late work, but I don't know that I'm going to do that forever. One should step on it if they've ignored it. The Class 7 video has been posted on the same link as every week. And we are going to use assets today. So last class we used assets. That might have been the first time, was it? I think it was, when we did the duck on the stage. It is a similar routine today. We're doing a desert scene today. So you're going to want those assets downloaded. I'm going to do that in a couple of minutes. Hey, you know how when family passes by during class, they tend to tiptoe or whatever? I don't mind if your family passes by. That was my wife she just snuck by us. You don't have to sneak around. Oh, you see, there she was. All right, anyway, with a plant. All right. Okay. This is a weird year, 2020. All right. So, okay, let me get back to it. All right, so here we go. So I'm going to get my assets in a minute. I just want to say a little bit about this. Windows people, I don't want to keep repeating this bit, right? This link here, and really a lot of this, if you're very good at Windows, you're probably fine without this advice. But there's a list of different things that I've noticed that differs from Windows behavior as opposed to the Mac that I typically teach on. And I teach mostly in Mac labs at all the schools that I have worked at. So I don't want to claim to be a Windows expert. But one of the #1 disturbing things for me is that multimedia guys, multimedia artists, will often have 4 files with the same name because they made a JPEG to put in their animation. And then they're going to combine them into a movie. I already got a JPEG, a dot, let's say dot GIF, there's other choices, and a video, dot MP4 or dot MOV. And if there's no extension, how do I know? They just say dog, dog, dog. So anyway, about working with extensions, that's all that stuff's on this handout. Is also about how to deal with my zip files. The main point is please extract all. Don't try to work with the files. Only Windows lets you do that. Work with files in a compressed zipped folder, but they don't always behave. It's better to uncompress it. And in Windows land, we call that extract. So I don't want to say any more about it. We've been past the Chromebook thing. Anyone who's requested Chromebooks has gotten them. It looks like this class didn't actually need them. Okay, it's all about Photoshop, so I'm not going to repeat all this, right? This is just ways to get in, right, which we've been talking about really quite here, and I've got a handout for anything that deserves one. So again, look, the only thing I want to say is this service desk business, I was told to tell people who had trouble logging in to contact the service desk, especially since we started discovering some of you were able to log in on a different computer, but not on your own, which is really rather confusing to me, and it's way out of my realm, as a multimedia teacher. Service desk is the first stop. If they've been tardy about getting back to you, Kevin wrote them, they haven't written him back. I'm glad he told me. I have to jump over and get us more help. I'm going to avoid this topic until I'm sure we need it. I'd be glad to find out that we don't. So look, we're going to jump right into Photoshop right now. So if you're not comfortable with working with assets, here I go. One way to get them is here. The other way is from our home page, right? But since I'm here, I'm going to use this one. It's exactly the same. The only thing that I do want to do first is I am going to delete stuff from my downloads so people are not confused. All right, so simply on any computer, I'll just click the link. In Chrome, you see a little arrow come down to the left. If you've got a reasonable internet connection, it should take a number of seconds. If you got a slow connection, it may take a minute or two. If you're on a Mac, the best way in at that stage is just to click right on the name. Don't bother with this little arrow. Click right on the name. It'll go right to your downloads folder, and it will unzip it, make a real folder out of it. But if you're on Windows, just find your way there however you're comfortable. I imagine you might have the same little arrow here that says show folder or something like that. Macs say show in Finder. So that's another way to get to it. And basically, it's just a quick way into your downloads folder. So if you're comfortable going there yourself, that's fine. I just want to point out, don't try to use this zip. Mac people can't, right? Windows people can, but it's a bad idea. Mac people should double click this if it didn't open by itself, right? Windows people have to control click and choose extract or extract to folder or extract all. You're gonna have to wing it a little bit. You want to extract the entire thing. It's really just a folder. And that's the folder. I don't even need the zip anymore. I could throw it out. There's nothing about it. So again, at this stage, I'd like you to organize yourself however you're comfortable doing that. I recommend not working on things in downloads. This is a mailbox. So I'm in the habit of dragging it to my desktop right here, and then go to the desktop and work on it there. There's even better ways, neater ways than that. But here I am. I just went to the desktop. There's my folder. Look, I do want to say something. We got 25 people in here today, and a lot of you guys have been raised on computers. You know, you were born using computers. You don't need these big speeches. But some of you are brand new, and I'm sympathetic to that because I was the newest in my computer class. You know, I was terrible, but I worked twice as hard as everybody and became pretty expert same year. So not like I'm unsympathetic, but I have to figure out how much time we can afford for each topic. All right, and again, it's all on YouTube. All right, I want to show you something. So on a Mac, I click an image and then I hit my space bar to get a preview. And I use a down arrow to move through my folder. Some people will open it even on a Mac in this thing called Preview. One of you guys was telling me what you call the previewing software on Windows. What was that called? When you open up an image on Windows to look at it? Anybody know? Nobody? All right, I guess it's not urgent. So anyway, there's the house. I just want to show you, here's Statue of Liberty. And I want to tell you, some of these we're using today, some of them are GIFs. And not GIF, gifts, presents from your teacher, right? The ones I care about most is the desert and the camel. It would be fun to put the Statue of Liberty in the desert, but I'll leave these things here for people who want to play with it. You know, put a camel in front of the house, you know, with the skills that you learned today. But we're going to open up camel1.png, right, in a moment. I want to mention something small. I'm going to keep it brief. Do you notice most of the others are JPEGs? We got one PNG, we got one TIFF, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 JPEGs. The JPEGs are weird because their extension is spelled differently. JPEG, JPG. The only kind I know that has 2 spellings, but they're both fine. Same kind of file. What's the advantage with a PNG? PNGs have great transparency. JPEGs have none. So I could actually have a partially transparent image in a PNG. TIFFs are mostly for print, and I don't want to say much about it. Let's open Photoshop. Now, once we get Photoshop open, I'm going to open up the desert. We want to actually, oops, hey, you're peeking. Wait a second, you're not supposed to see that. Go away. All right. That was my little trial that I always do. All right. So here we are in Photoshop. All Adobe products start with this kind of window. Some of them we use, most of the time we don't. So I tend to ignore it, right? I would usually go to the File menu instead. Join me. So we're going to do File menu Open. If I wanted a blank canvas, for those of you who like to draw and to paint, I would do File menu New. Open up a blank page, right? But we mostly work with photos. So we're going to start with the desert. So let's do File menu Open. Right now here, it's asking me where to open it from. I want to open it from the computer. By the way, this is new. This is brand new stuff. So I'm getting used to this. I want one that's on the computer. I just downloaded it on your computer. Then there's a more familiar window. I'd like you to find your way to the folder that you downloaded and unzipped. I put mine on the desktop, and it's called Class 8 Assets. I'm going to double click it, and that should work on Windows and a Mac. So now it'll remember, right? For the rest of the day, I can get into this folder quickly. But we want to start with desert. Let's open up the desert JPEG, give that a minute. Now, one thing that's kind of curious for those of you who are using the same computer for every class, and I think that's probably most of you, right, is it remembers your settings. So I want to say something that's kind of cool about that and something that's a little problematic. What's cool is if you go pro, you become a professional, and say you're the kind that works at home, your computer remembers all your settings and things are perfect. If you're a freelance professional, I used to do that. I'd go work at other people's offices, all different offices. I have to reset everything each time, right? So at home, I just don't want you to forget how you did stuff in case you have to work elsewhere, right? So first thing I want to say is turn on your rulers unless they're on. So Command R will turn the rulers on and off on a Mac. Control R should do the same thing on Windows. If you prefer, you can go to the View menu and turn them on here, rulers. But then you want to make sure that they're in pixel measurements. We don't use inches for this type of thing. This is a multimedia class, which means most of our work is headed for a screen, and screens don't measure in inches. Not really. You know, maybe if you're buying a TV set, but none of the people making stuff for television or the internet is going to use inches. So how did we change it? If you're looking at inches up here, we right-clicked or control-clicked on a ruler. So this is the horizontal ruler. Here's a vertical one on the left. Doesn't matter which one you use. Control-click or right-click, and you can see what the choices are. So we definitely need to be in pixels. This is not optional. So what you could tell is that we got a very big image. The thing looks like it's about 3,500 pixels wide, and it's about 2,000 pixels tall. Now, one thing that takes a while to get used to is what does that even mean? You know, like how big do I need, right? And I have to say, it's complex. It's very complex. A lot of people like to keep websites 1,000 pixels wide. Frankly, 960 is the popular number. And why? Why? Just not everybody, but here's why. Any computer could fit at least 960. Right? Now, your computer might fit up to 2,500. So there's a lot of changing philosophies about websites, how big they should be, and how to make them work for everybody. But one simple road is just to keep the website narrow at 960. That's not going to last because people want to use their big screens. They don't want white space on the left and the right. So what's the biggest you could get that makes any sense if you're going to be shown on a computer? Well, I would say the biggest reasonable number is about 2,500 pixels. I don't want to bore you with why, but I read statistics every few times a year to know what the common screen settings are. We call it screen resolution. So I keep an eye on how that changes. And I think we're heading toward a time where 2,500 is going to be our new norm. So today we're going to try that out. And the thing is, your image is 3,500. In other words, it's too big even for the biggest monitor. So what do we do about it? I want to show you something I'd like to do with you. Can everybody join me? Up top, you see all the Photoshop menus. Now, if you don't see the Photoshop menu and the ones next to it, you probably clicked out. And now you're seeing different menus depending on where you click. So you have to get yourself back to Photoshop, however you like to do that. All right, we're looking for the image menu. Last class, we got our first look at image menu, image size, and I want to revisit it. So I want to say a couple things to you. This is a little nerdy, and I don't want anyone to be nervous. If you're into this stuff, pay close attention. If not, pay some attention. This is not going to be on a test. I want you to notice something. The resolution here says 72. This does not mean screen resolution, like when you're measuring for the internet. This means the image itself has 72 dots in an inch. Now, please don't join me on this, but I would like you to imagine something. If I had 72 dots in an inch, but the document was 10 inches wide, it would be 720 wide. So don't do this. I just want you to see something. Up here it says this document is 3,500 wide. We already knew that roughly from looking at the ruler. 3,500 is around here. So that makes sense. But if the document had been 10 inches wide, Actually, please, like I said, I'd rather you not do this, so give me a minute. There it is. It's 720 pixels wide. So the only point that I want to make, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, is that the number of dots per inch has a big bearing on how big the document is, and definitely how heavy the file size is. This is what I'd like for you to do with me, right? I want you to notice something. Well, I'm back at the original numbers. Right? You could always click cancel and come back if you made a mistake. These are the original numbers. I come over here and I want to set it to pixels. Now, if yours is not letting you set it to pixels, right, which happens to me sometimes, check this where it says resample. Set it to pixels. All right, I'd like you to go to the width and type in 2500. Now, what should be happening is the image size change. So this is just the size of it, literally how slow it'll be on the internet, how much room it'll take on your hard drive. We just cut it down to, it went down to half the file size, right? The actual dimensions, though, are 2500 wide, so it'll fit well on a large computer monitor. We're going to play with this number today. Kind of boring, right? But I want to warn you, those of you who are going into TV, the internet, even print graphics, animation, you're going to have to slowly get more used to this kind of conversation. And to be honest, it'll probably take a couple of years before you could think this way. It's pretty alien, right? I'm introducing these ideas. It is introduction to multimedia after all. All right, if yours is set to 2500, click OK. All right, now before we move forward and get our camel and do whatever strange magic we want to do to the desert, I do want to fix the desert up a little bit, right? You probably noticed that you could see on the ruler that you did make it smaller. All right, okay, so that worked. I want to go over levels one more time. Could everybody join me and do Command L if you're on a Mac, or Control L if you're on Windows, and you should see this pop up. Command L or Control L. If you hate shortcuts, most of this stuff is going to exist here. The image menu, adjustments, right? And over here you'll see levels. We tried hue saturation, I believe, but we're going to try it today if anyway, but we want levels. You can come here if you like. By the way, those of you who are hungry to teach yourself more, these are all cool, really cool, right? We're going to levels. The reason I teach it with the shortcut is you probably want to use it all the time. Now, I want to say something about this. If you look at the image itself, you don't see any blacks and you don't see any white, right? And if you look at levels here, this side would have a little mountain if there were blacks there, and this side would have a mountain if there was whites. It's basically showing you that there are none. It's all in the middle. In fact, there's a lot of stuff just a little darker than middle gray. What I want you to do, though, is make the darks darker. So this is dark, but I want it darker. How do you do that? Could you grab the dark slider and drag it to the right? Now, if you go too far, you're not going to like it much, right? So it's up to you. You don't have to do it the same as me, but you want it to look good. All right, let's go and make the lights. So this looks like some of the lightest stuff on the screen, this part of the sky. Yeah, I think the whole sky is lighter than the desert by a little bit. Let's go to the light slider and move it inward. I want to say something very quickly. This slider controls things that are already dark, but you could move it left or right. This controls things that are already light, but you could move it left or right. The rules are, left means take that range and make it lighter. Left is lighter. So even if I took the dark one, I'm going to make the darks lighter, but I don't want to do that. Left is lighter. I want right, because right is darker. I want darker darks and lighter lights. When you're done with that, see if the midtones want to go left to be lighter or whether they want to go right to be darker. It's up to you. So here would be lighter midtones, right? Sun blasted. Here's right, a little more drama. I'm going to go with slightly dramatic. I'm going to ask you to click OK. Now, you might want to test and say, did I really improve that? Let's go over the history palette. Could everyone go to the window menu? And most of the good stuff in terms of floating palettes, by the way, anything that stays out is called a palette, right? So all the palettes live under the window menu. So we're going down to history. Now this is showing you a little list of the last things you did. So one step back, it thinks I did the burn tool, but I didn't. That's kind of odd. The stuff I did earlier today, it's funny that it remembers that. Very odd. But if you back up, it should change. See, this is before image size, so it's larger. So if you hate it, if you want to go back one step just to compare, this is the milky desert. You know, is it okay? Yeah, it's okay. But frankly, this is art, so okay is never okay. This has got some drama. I prefer it. Anybody have any questions about either levels or the history palette? No? All right. It's powerful. You should use it on every photo if you've got Photoshop around. And a lot of people in this class, at least half, are going into media classes, right? So if you're going to media careers, you're going to have to really know this. All right. I want to leave the desert now, even though we might play more games with it. Let's go ahead and get the camel. So let's do File menu, Open, to get another file. Now, they're all in today's assets. It's a nice little kit. And there's camel1.png, right? Photoshop works with a lot of different file types, so that's kind of cool. And just click Open. I want you to take a look at your ruler and notice that the camel here is about 1,000 pixels wide. What's cool about that is this is the 1,000 pixel mark of my desert, right? So the camel's going to be just about, you know, a third, a little less than a third, a little more than a third actually of the width. It should fit like a glove. But we got to get the camel out of this image. I want to just point out a couple things. You see that little checkerboard behind the camel? Are you all seeing that? It looks little black and white squares back there. That means somebody already deleted the background. You know, so like theoretically, I could just bring the camel straight in. Somebody already deleted the background. But I do want to show you a tool that it's sort of newish in Photoshop. It's just flat out amazing, though I'm in love with this tool, right? I got to show you again in a more complicated image what it does. So this tool is a little new, so I can't claim expertise on it. But last class, we used the magic wand, so I'm hoping it's still out, all right? If you can't find it, just hit W on your keyboard, and it should take you to either the magic wand or part of its set. And once you find the wand or its set, press on it and keep your button down. There's 3 tools hiding underneath there. This thing called Quick Selection. If I press it on again, this is the Object Selection tool. That's the one I want to talk to you about, Object Selection, right? I'm just kind of curious. So you could hit W to find that set, but I don't know which one's going to be on top. You have to press it down to see the others and choose Object Selection. Are you guys finding this stuff? Because every now and then a couple people can't find it, and I do, and I don't mind helping. All right, this tool's amazing, right? Frankly, what it does is you drag it over an object, even if it's in a crowded room, and the object, the tool attempts to recognize, oh, this is a coffee cup, and select it, which is weird. It's almost like artificial intelligence, that it knows the coffee cup is not part of the tablecloth. Pretty darn interesting. So let's try that out today, right? You could, this will be easy for this particular tool. I want you to drag over the camel. Don't leave any of the camel out. Just drag over the whole camel with that tool. And then let go. Give it a minute or two because it's doing some heavy thinking. It's taking its time. There we go. Did you see these little dots, little dashes around your camel? It just shrunk wrap around the camel. That's mind blowing. I've been doing this for over 20 years. We've been waiting for that. Thing is, you know, you could do this like around one bird flying with its flock in the sky. You know, there are cases where it won't get it right, you know, if it's really complex, but I'm surprised how often it does get it right. Let's see how good that selection was, right? So again, please don't be shy. I'm a friendly guy. Does anybody need a hand? Yeah.
All good.
All good. Thanks for saying so. I do appreciate that. It's great to hear a voice. All right. So you're on your camel.
Sorry.
Yes.
How did you do that?
Yes.
How do you change the ruler from inches to pixels?
So what you do is, are you in a Mac or Windows?
Windows.
Windows. So bring your mouse over either the top ruler or the side ruler.
Okay.
Hold down, right click the ruler. I got to think Windows. Right click right on the ruler.
Okay.
Do you see choices there?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, choose pixels. Good question. You look so official with that headgear and a planet behind you. I really feel like you're launching satellites or the first Mars mission.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want you to copy the camel with Command C or Control C, or Edit menu copy if you must, right? So I'm gonna Mac. I'm gonna do Command C. I just got to get in there. Oops, I lost my little selection. You know, so when you Command C, it copies the camel to memory. And I could easily paste it into a different Photoshop document. And I may even be able to paste it into other programs, depending on how friendly the program is. Before I go, I want to share with you a silly term that a lot of our artists use and designers use. These little things moving around, we call them marching ants. It's silly, but that's what people call them. Marching ants. You can see they're moving, the little ant-like. This is where you know your object's selected. If they disappear, you just got to select it again. All right, I'm going to Command C. The edit menu blinked at me, and I'm going back to the desert. Now paste. First, I want to prove to you something about pixel measurements. I'm going to take the camel with, this is the move tool, by the way, at the top of the toolbar. So you could just move your camel around. I'm going to move to the left just because I want to show you something. There's the 1,000 pixel mark. See that? Remember before I was telling you that it's a 1,000 pixel wide camel. I just want to prove it, how it relates to what we're doing. This document, we made it 2,500 wide. So that's 2.5 camels. There's the next camel up would be about there, and the next one wouldn't quite fit. But it looks kind of perfect for what our needs are. So I'd like you to drag the camel wherever you feel like using it. And I want to just say a couple things about that choice. If we did want to put him on the dunes in the way background, we'd have to shrink him down, right? Because he's further away. Actually, it's a girl camel. Would be further away. We'd have to make her smaller, right? Things I don't want to do that now. Maybe we'll add a camel if there's time, but right now I'd like to keep this camel closer to the foreground so we could really sink our teeth into it. It's not a minor object way back there, right? I would like you to check to see if your layers palette is out, because if it's not, we're going to need it. So like I said, all of these are called palettes. All the things that stay out are palettes, even the tools. And you get them all from the window menu. This one's called layers, and it's the coolest thing to happen. Maybe it's about like a 20-year-old concept at this point, a little older than that. So if you look at it, you could see a little thumbnail of the camel, and beneath it, a little thumbnail of the desert. If you poke one of them in the eye, it disappears, and I could print like this, or I could show my client what it looks like without a camel, and then you click in the same column to bring it back. This is what it is without the desert. Doesn't look too good. Let's rename it. We didn't do this last time. Do you see where it says layer 1? The number's meaningless. Could you double click layer 1, right where it says layer 1, and write camel? And while we're at it, can you double click the lower one called background? And I'm going to call it desert. For anyone who cares, that's 1S. Otherwise, it's a dessert. All right. Now, the thing that I want to point out is be careful what you do. Like I'm on the desert layer right now. So if I take my move tool, even though it looks like I'm clicking on the camel, but wait a second here. My move tool is set to automatically select. So that was kind of interesting. Here I am in the desert. I'm moving the desert around. So it's interesting, the move tool changed in this version, so it actually knows what I'm clicking on or the settings on. I just want to double check something kind of quick. Hey guys, could you check something for me? Could everybody click the top tool, the move tool? Looks a bit like a compass. And on the top, you'll see a bunch of options for the move tool. Auto select is checked on mine. Is it checked on yours? No. So it's up to you. Some say yes, some say no. So I just want to point something out to everybody. It's a choice you get to make. I want to show you what that actually means. If it's off, which used to be the default, I just turned it off. Even if, let's say, look at my layers for a minute. I got the move tool, I turned auto select off. If I'm on the desert layer, look what happens even if I click here. It will only move anything on the layer that the layer palette is currently on. If I have auto select turned on, so I'm checking it now, it will automatically figure out what layer this object lives on. So even though I'm on the desert layer, because I turned on auto select, it went to the camel layer as soon as I clicked on it, and it moves the camel. Which is better? You know, it's really hard to say, but most of the time, I think auto select is pretty cool. You know, it makes life a little bit easier. Turn it on. Okay, thing is, I want to do some work on the camel, right? And there's some stuff that we're gonna like and some stuff I'm uncomfortable with. You know how we did levels on the desert? I want to do levels on the camel, but here's my only resistance. Whites, they don't react too well to levels. And if you look on the camel's ankles, they're very, very light. You know, I'll admit, they're not really white, but they're close enough to it. I'm afraid they'll turn gray when I start messing with the levels. Let's try it out. Can everyone do Command L? Just please be sure you're on the camel layer now. So Command L will only affect the camel alone. The desert's left alone. So I clicked on the camel layer, then do Command L again. All right, if I darken the darks, no problem because it's ignoring the lights of the thing's ankle. If I lighten the lights, no problem, but that doesn't look right. So I'm going to back it up. How would I darken the lights? You know, if this only goes left, you know, right means darker, but I'm up against the wall. I can't go right. If I really had to darken those lights, this one goes in the opposite direction. This is my emergency lights control, my emergency dark control. This one's always free to go back and forth. They didn't bother putting it here. So this is how I would darken the lights if I wanted. You see how it's getting a little grayish? I don't like that. I'm going to leave it where it is. Maybe work with the midtones a little bit. Left is lighter, right is darker. It's up to you. See what feels right. Trust your gut. This is like a very pale camel in this deep colored desert, so it's not going to feel right. So I'm trying to get it just right. I think I'm going to stop here. Let's click OK when you're ready. I want to remind you, you could always change your mind by using the history palette. And if your history palette put itself away, which it does, right? You could get it again from the window menu if you want. Or you might have this little icon here. You know, it's funny, I haven't really made friends with these, but I should. They're very convenient. This is a shortcut to the history palette. So I could back up and say, oh, was it better before levels? No, I still like levels, so I'm going to click back down here. Any questions about the history palette? Don't you wish life had a history palette? Yes, Yu Ying.
Sorry, Professor, I have a question is that when I click the level, it shows different with you.
Does it? Well, there's two possibilities, right? one, if you're on a different layer, it's going to look a little different because it's showing me the amounts of lights and darks for the desert. So maybe you might be on the wrong layer. This is what it looks like for the camel. That's Command L. Is that what it is? Are you on the wrong layer or it looks completely different?
So I'm in the camel layer and I click this. It's still different.
So let me ask you something else then. Give me a second there just to, do you have the sliders? Does it say levels up here?
No.
What does it say?
It's just 0. Oh, it's same, but the picture, the input levels shows different.
Well, here's the thing. Once we mess with the camel, right? All those, let me be a little more specific. I've heard this little part here called a histogram. I often call it the mountain, right? The histogram keeps changing. I want to prove it to you. Let's say I made my camel like really light and I okay it and I come back to levels. You see how this changed? It's showing
No,
me
it didn't change.
All right, we're going to screen share. Okay, I'm going to turn off my screen share. All right, you want to turn on your screen share? Click the green share screen button.
Yeah.
Are you on a Mac or Windows?
Mac.
Mac. Okay.
Okay,
So
can
yeah,
you see it?
I can't. Yeah, if you drag it, now I can see it. All right, I see you're on levels. Could you? Oh, I see why. Stop for a minute. So
Okay.
do you see those little dashes that I called marching ants before?
Sorry.
Yeah. So do you see around the camel? There are those
Yeah.
little dashes.
Yeah.
The dashes are already over the sky and over the desert. You
Yeah.
selected no pixels at all. You selected the empty part of your layer. So I'm going to tell you how to fix it. Can you
Okay.
click cancel on levels? Right? Click cancel out of there, right? And you've selected the opposite of what you want. So first what I'd like you to do is just do Command D. Command D, right? You deselect it. Now I want to make an argument. If you select part of the camel, you'll only do levels to part of the camel. If you select the emptiness around the camel, you can't do anything because it's empty. That's what you had. You'd selected the area outside the camel. But the camel's the only thing on this layer, so you don't have to select it all. Just do Command L now. Try it. Command L.
It shows nothing.
Cool. Click on the camel layer. Now do Command L.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Are we
Okay,
good?
thank you.
You're very welcome. If you turn off your screen share, I'm going
Thank
to
you
turn
so
mine
much.
back on. I'm glad you asked because you're going to help me point something out that I want to say. So I'm going to screen share again. First off, I got to get my history palette out because I demolished my camel. There we go. But I do want to show you something. If I did something like this is the simplest selection tool. It's not really what we want, but I just want to show you something. If I did select a little bit of this and I'm on the camel layer, look what happens if I do levels now. I'm just working on part of a camel, right? That would be a big problem. So usually if an object's alone on a layer, I don't have to worry. I could work freely. If it had 6 camels and only needed to work on one, that would have been difficult. I'd have to figure out how to select just the one camel. Right? Right now, if I select part of him, I'm asking for trouble. Oh no. Right? So what you had was this. I'm just going to show you one more time. You selected the outside. Do you see this is the selection line? But it's actually this area. This is what this is trying to tell you. I selected this part here. But on this layer, there's no pixels there. So I can't do levels. There's no pixels to darken or to lighten. And that's the situation you were in. It's interesting. Oops. Come back. Any other questions? Anybody? That was a good one, though. So you did levels on the camel. I want to point something out about what if you needed to baby parts of the camel, like levels are not quite right. Like, again, if you're working on a crowd of people, you might want to darken the person with skin that's too light for the photo and lighten somebody else who's standing in a shadow, you know. So you might have to move around. So I want to point something out. Last week, we tried burn a little bit, and we made a little shadow underneath the duck with the burn tool. And like it sounds, it darkens. I want to show you its partner, which is called the dodge tool. So way down here is the burn tool from last week. And it looks like it uses O to find it. So if you're having a hard time finding it, you're in a different tool, tap O. And this is where the set of tools is. So the burn tool might show up first, or the dodge tool that looks like a lollipop, or the sponge tool. Depends which is the last thing anybody used, right? But they'll all share O as a shortcut. So I could hit O, right? Press on it and get this one. I want the dodge tool. I want to say a quick word about dodge. So, you know, when I went to school, I had to take photography and darkroom photography. And some of you guys are real young and might not know what a darkroom is. I think most of you do, though. In the old days, when you had film in your camera, you had to take the film out of the camera in the dark because light hitting it would darken the film. And that's called burning. And that's why we have a burn tool from last week, right? It's imitating, exposing photographic film to light, which darkens it. Dodging means I hid part of it when I exposed it to the light so that it wouldn't get darker. But now in the digital age, we have a dodge tool, and all it does is paint lightness. So I'm on a banana, and I want the sunny side of the banana to be even lighter. I dodge, right? It's a way to finesse it instead of using levels. So this is what I want to try with you. We're on the dodge tool, and I'm thinking I might want to lighten some of the top of the camel where the sun would hit the most. But there's a few things I have to do before I could use it. So this is the dodge tool. One, most of the tools that paint with pixels, right? So I'm not only talking color. Burning is painting with pixels. It's just darkening them. Dodge lightens them. They all use brushes. So as soon as you choose a tool like this one, you can't look at that flower, right? You just lightened up the petals. We're gonna do something similar, right? You have to come up here. I want you to notice this circle. You should have one just like it. It might have a different number, right? That is the brush tool options. I'd like you to click on that. Now, before I go into it, can you find it? Like, you do have to click the dodge tool first, right? Not every tool shares those options. Dodge, burn, the actual paintbrush itself, some others, right? So you find the dodge tool. Now, we're going to focus just on these two sliders up here, maybe this thing too. So this is a 125 pixel brush. I'm dragging it to the right to show you. If your caps lock key's down, you won't be able to see. So you have to make sure the caps lock key is not down. If I drag this to the right, I got a much bigger brush. And some computers won't even like that if they don't have enough RAM. They'll say, hey, that's just too big. You got to back off. But this is like a huge brush. It's so big, it doesn't even fit on my screen, right? So what do we want? I want a brush that's small enough to work on the camel, but I don't want a little detail brush. You know, I want something a little bit bigger. So I'm going to give you an estimated size that I recommend. I would say 100 pixels, maybe a little bit more. 100 in the 120s. Now here's the other thing I want to show you. Beneath that, so you keep dragging over here to see if it's the size you like. So I'm going to be dodging up here, maybe a little on his head, her head. So here's the hardness slider. Now what this means is the edge of my brush is very soft. So if any of you do graffiti, you might know that most magic markers have a very sharp edge, right? But a spray paint can does not, right? It's got a very soft edge. So if you want a soft edge, you keep the hardness down to 0 or close, depends how soft. This is going to be a hard edge like a pencil, you know, with a point. I don't really want that. So I'm going to take it all the way down to 0. To accept it, you hit either return or enter. Now, there's still one more step. I got the right tool. I got a reasonable size, soft brush to use it. We're back to this same subject here, range. Now, this is what this means. The dodge tool only lightens, but it lets you say lighten shadows. Now, don't do this. I just want you to see this, okay? Because I want to make a point. Would be the wrong decision for us. But you see how dark this part of the camel is, but this is light? Watch what happens if I dodge. The shadow's getting lighter. But this stuff's not changing as much because it's not dark enough to be recognized. Some parts of it won't react at all. Look at that. I'm going to undo that. If I wanted to work on a light part, I'd have to choose highlights. The dodge tool always lightens, but this says what it should work on. So this one here will ignore the shadow, pretty much, because shadow's just too dark. But this will lighten a lot. I'm going to Command Z those. I'm using shortcuts that imitate the history palette. But here's the actual history palette. Let me get back before I did any dodging. So I want to dodge this part here. It's hard to say what that is. It's not dark enough to be a shadow. I'm just going to call that, I think it's a midtone. All right, now you could safely take your brush and see if it looks good with a little light up there, right? Wherever you think a little light might be nice. You're painting with lightness. A little bit on his head, her head, I'm assuming. Right. So anywhere you want. I just want to say a quick thing about dodging. Don't go crazy. Don't keep dodging randomly and over the same place. It's going to get kind of like muddy looking. I've seen people new to this are like, well, the burn tool darkens. So I could just dodge, change my mind, and burn, and then dodge and burn. If you go back and forth, it just turns gray. You know, loses its sense of color. But the dodge tool is kind of amazing. So I want to say something to you guys about working with models, for example. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of work in the fashion industry. And, you know, you see a model in a magazine, and if you bump into them on the street, they never look quite as good in person because there's no Photoshop on the street. But what people do is they dodge circles under eyes so the person looks like they slept better. You know, if they got a weak chin and you want to make it stronger, they burn the shadow, makes the chin look stronger. You know, it's a lot of dodging and burning in that industry. Okay. Hey, how'd your dodging go? Pretty good. So I want to tell you something. I'm not going to burn today because the colors on that camel just don't like the burn tool. You know, they get weird looking. So it would be hard to darken parts of the camel, really. So I want to leave it be for a minute. I want to just check my own notes that I have here, make sure that I want to include some cool stuff. And how are we doing for time? We're doing very good for time. All right, I want to do some more stuff. All right, I want to mention something. Make sure you're on the camel layer. I'd like you to get the move tool again. Now, remember, if you move your camel, sorry, I'm moving stuff all over the place. But if you move your camel, remember, you could always move it back. Just be sure you're on the correct layer. Now, why do I want to move it? I want to show you something about the Option key or the Alt key. I got the Move tool, and if you're on a Mac, you hold down Option. If you're on Windows, you hold down Alt. Hold it down with me, and the cursor goes double. Why? Look at that. So I would like you to make a second camel. Amazing. I've made flocks of birds this way. I've even made crowds of people in a theater. And then I'd go back and I'd change them all so they don't look so identical. So what kind of changes might we do with our duplicate? Well, one thing is, If you would like a camel off in the distance, right, we might want to make it smaller. Now, before we do that though, let's look at the layers and see what actually happened. Right, so that's called option dragging. Many programs let you do that, or alt dragging, and it always uses a move tool, or whatever the program has. I want to show you something. I'm going to get my layers out again. There's 2 camel layers. So this is going to get confusing. When you make a copy in this program, it makes a layer. So if I hide one, that's my right side camel. Bring the eye back. So now, once I've got separate layers, I have a lot of freedom, but I also have to be very aware of what I'm doing. You know, I don't want to work on the wrong layer. So you might want to check out which layer we're talking about. I want to work with the new camel a little bit. So we're on the new camel layer, and I'd like to change its size and move him further away into the distance. So in Photoshop, we use this trick called transform. And we do it so often that most people just use a shortcut, Command T or Control T for transform, right? Just be sure you're on the right layer and be sure you didn't select anything. Because if you do select something, if you do select something and Command T, you're going to wind up doing stuff like that. And this is going to be a really weird looking camel I got there. Kind of funny though. Let me put that back. So you don't want to select in this particular case. The camel's on his own layer anyway, so there's no fear. You don't need to select anything. Make sure you're on the right layer, Command T. All right, I'd like you to grab a corner and make your camel smaller, and you're trying to imagine a size for the distance. By the way, this Command T trick will also let you just move it. So you could move it where you want, and I can see it's in front of the other camel, so now it just looks like a weird, looks like a child. But if I want to move it in the background, I'm going to have to change the layer order. So let's do a couple things together. Make it smaller, take your best guess. Then to accept it, hit return or enter. Now we do have a problem though. I want this camel to be able to go behind the other camel, right, which is currently refusing to do. Hey, does anyone already know what to do if I want that camel behind the other one? Come on, Rose, how do you do it?
You move the camel copy and you move it below camel layer.
Exactly. So these are like cards in a deck. You could always change the order of the cards. Pretty cool. Let's do it. So just like Rose said, I want you to press on this layer, right? Right. Keep your mouse down or your thumb down and drag it so that it's underneath the first camel. See? So you could change the order a lot, but if you do it in a silly way, you're just in trouble, right? I just hid that camel. So this is a stack of layers. I got it behind the other camel, right? I want to make sure that I go to that layer when I'm ready because I don't like it there. You know, figure out where you want to put it. By the way, if you want to Command T again, you can. You know, so you could actually, you know, change the size again. It might not look so good if you made it bigger again, unless Photoshop remembers the original camel. At the moment, I'm not sure. So it doesn't have to invent pixels. Now I'm going to do that again for anybody who missed it. So I'm going to back up. My history palette disappeared on. Oh, there it is. Right, so this was the problem I was having earlier, right? So I just drag it into the order that I want. Now I can see it's behind the other camel. Make sure I'm on that new camel's layer. And I get the move tool and move it. So put it wherever looks like fun to you. And again, if you want to change its size again, just do Command T again. Definitely safer to make it smaller. And it's probably okay to make it larger. Hit return or enter to accept it. Now, I want to take this a little further. We're doing pretty well for time today. You know, that camel in the back there just doesn't feel right to me, and I don't want to tell you why. You know, an object in the distance looks rather different than the same object up close. You know, and it's affected by the fact that light is not even, right? That area might have stronger or less strong light. There may be in a cloud, under the cloudier part of the sky, for example. But even if the light was even, things in the distance tend to absorb some of the sky color. And the Italians used to call that sfumato. I want to show you a painting that you all know, right? So I'm going to take a little detour. Have a look at this for a second. You know, by the way, I don't speak Italian. So if I just mutilated someone's language, please forgive me. All right, so this is, I want to show you something quickly. Probably like the most famous painting ever, right? So we all know what it looks like, right? I just want to, let me see if I can get a close-up of Mona. Do you see how the background gets bluer and bluer, right? And that's because there's more sky back there between the viewer's eyes, right? And those trees in the background than between the viewer's eyes and Mona herself, right? So the further something goes, the more of the atmosphere is between you and that object, right? So this has got this blue-greenish sky and it's sort of absorbed into the trees. So that's another way to imply distance. So let's see if it works for us. I'm going back to Photoshop. Make sure you're on the background camel. And if you know, if you want to rename it, you can. You just double-click the name. I just wrote camel back. If you want, that's optional. But just make sure you're on that layer. I want to show you guys something. I'm not sure if we tried this before or not, but I want to try it now. I'm going to zoom in a bit. All right, you're on the correct layer, and then do Command U, the letter U, Command U. If you're interested to know where it lives, it's just like levels. So I'm going to put mine away, which was hard to get to, really. Image menu, adjustments, there's levels, and the one you just did, there's the shortcut, it's called View Saturation. Oh yeah, we did do this the other day, didn't we? That's good, because I'm pleased to review it. I want to mention a couple of things. We explored the difference between colorize off and colorize on. I hope you could see on mine that it's off, it's not checked. And I'd like you to just play with this slider here called hue for a minute. So I've got this magenta camel back there. Now, the first thing I'd like you to do is just ignore the colors you see on this little bar and just trust what your eyes see when you drag it around. So that's a bluer camel, right? Which I could work with later to try to make it lighter so it feels a little more believable. My computer is suddenly stopping, doesn't want to work. Oh my gosh, I should have had everybody save. Right. Give me a minute here. Folks, I'm going to try to cancel this without, it's the moral of this story is teachers should save every few minutes to make sure everyone has good habits, but this teacher didn't do that. Give me 1 second to troubleshoot for a moment. Computer's feeling a little crashy. Folks, I recommend that we all do save as. Save as. Bear with me. Forget hue saturation for a minute. If you're in hue saturation, click cancel for a moment, right? Now, I just headed into trouble. And because I was neglectful and haven't been saving, right? If I have to quit Photoshop, I lose all that work, right? Lucky for me, I'm pretty fast, so I can get it back quickly, right? But it could be a disaster. So why do I say save as instead of save? Right? If you did save, you're going to save over the original desert.jpg. So you'll never be able to get that original again. Maybe that's not a crime, but you won't be able to get it again. Plus, it'll have a goofy name. If I do save as, it'll save it as a new image, right? So the original desert one is safe, which is cool. And the new one will have a smarter name, like camel in desert. And you don't have to worry so much if something goes wrong, like my computer just did. So let me see if my computer's woken up while I was talking or not. Damn. Will not quit? Go away. Will not cancel. All right, give me a second, guys. Really didn't want to do that. Wow. Oh, look, it recovered it. That's a cool trick. I want to, folks, I want to give you a moment of full disclosure. Your teachers, who are often experts, don't know everything, right? Especially in software that changes 2 or 3 times a year. The whole idea that it knew I crashed and opened up a backup, that makes me really happy because it didn't used to do that. I wouldn't bank on it. I just got lucky, right? I'm going to save it properly now. I'm going to do just what I recommended. File menu, save as. So it's going to put away whatever was most recently saved, right? And give you a chance to create a brand new document. So there'll be 2 in your folder. I'm going to save it as desert and camel. It's going to automatically be a PSD. I'm going to write it myself, .psd. You know, probably, again, this is also a brand new feature. I have to click on your computer first. I usually name it there. Desert and camel. I can name it right here. Notice the format's automatically Photoshop, but it's going into the wrong folder. Very disturbing. I could have lost it. That's all because I didn't save properly before. All right, so there's the new name. There's the old one still in there. So let me just, I probably lost a couple people in that messiness. I want to say just 2 quick things. 1, when you make layers, that image is now a PSD. JPEGs don't have layers, right? So we started with a JPEG, but as soon as I started adding layers to it, it's like, hey, next time you save, I'm going to make this a PSD. Photoshop document.psd, right? That's the one that could do everything you want, but I can't put it on the internet. I'll have to make a JPEG later. If you want to work with layers, you're going to get to know PSD very well, Photoshop document. And then you're also going to have to know, how do I export it for my animation friend or my video friend or my one who works at a newspaper? The Photoshop document can make all those. It's the boss. It's got the layers. The other thing I want to say is about that choice I got on your computer or not. That's brand new. You know, where you could actually save it directly to the cloud. I don't want to make any comment on that today, right? Because I really just don't have enough experience. It's a new feature. So this is going to today's folder with a new name. This stuff is just options that are unimportant. I just click OK. Hey, can you guys be honest with me? How are you? Do you have your 2 camels still?
Yes.
Still got them.
All right, cool. So those of you with your cameras off, unless you're all eating, I think some of you are napping. I wagged my finger at you. You give me 1 second. Do you need me? No. Thank you. Thanks, Sean. All right, good. Anyway, listen, folks. Be better than the teacher. Save every 3 minutes. Now, a typical save is just Command S or File Menu Save. That means same name, same file, just update it. I made changes. So that you should do every 2 minutes. File Menu Save, Command S. You only do save as if you have a need to treat this as a new copy. So the old one is preserved. All right, so let me get back to where we were. I am going to take this camel here and catch up with you. Didn't save everything, but it saved a lot, so I do feel kind of lucky. All right. We could do hue saturation, we could do levels, we could do anything that makes that camel feel the distance. I said hue saturation, so I'm going to start there. Command hue. That's Zoom's Command hue. Photoshop's Command hue. All right, so this thing here is sophisticated because if you had a striped animal, a rainbow colored animal, right, this would move every color in the rainbow over, right? So that's kind of cool. On the other hand, if I wanted to shift to one color, the way the world does, where, you know, with sunglasses on, if I want to act like I tinted a black and white camel, I could check this. The only advantage I could think of for us right now to checking colorize is that you could trust the colors you see on the bar. They're not moving around the wheel. They're going to turn every color the same color. If you want to find something that you feel like it has some kind of influence of the sky, but that's a lot of hue saturation there. It's like a bit too much. What would happen if we lowered this? Saturation means give me less of that color that I asked for. I'm not liking it. It feels too black and white to me. And this is part of the process. If you don't like it, try something else. I'm going to turn this off. Camel feels more natural. And just trust my eyes until I see it feel a little bluish. None of these are doing what I want. Maybe this was a bad idea. That's what I want, but it's too saturated. Saturation means how much color. If you go to the right, way too much. If I go to the left, you might go too far, it may be too little. Now listen, if you hate this, click cancel. If you want to keep it, click OK. I hate mine. I'm clicking cancel. Let's try levels. You could keep the color and do levels also if you want. Choice is yours. Cancel or OK. Let's do some quick levels though. Would it be lighter? Would it be darker? It's really hard to say. This is going to lighten the lights on the camel. I don't want to get carried away. Right? This would lighten the midtones on the camel. I think I'll keep it. You know, folks, I went a little further with this subject than I meant to, right? Is there anything else I could do? Size, tinting, shading with levels? You know, we could conceivably blur it a little bit. So I hope I have some people into photography here. I want to say something about photography. Often you see an ad and somebody's holding the product right up to the camera, right? And that product is very sharp. The model also may be sharp, but the stuff behind them gets increasingly blurry in many ads. That's called depth of field, right? The eye tends to focus on an object and blur things else to a small degree. They're at least less targeted visually. So watch this. If you're still on that camel, you want to try some blur with me, let's add something. Could you join me in the filter menu, which is a lot of fun? I'd like you to go right to blur. And I'd like you to try this one called Gaussian Blur. They're all a little bit different. They're hard to describe. Let's try this one, Gaussian Blur. Now mine happened to be set to 3 pixels right now. That's what my camel looks like, a little blurry. That's what he looks like after a few drinks. That's a little out of control. So you want to find the number. It looks like 3 look pretty good, but you might disagree. It's sure working very well though. That thing feels far away. I'm happier with this than I am with the other choices. I'm going to click OK. All right. I would save again. I wouldn't do save as, just save. Takes a second, and if you crash, you don't have to panic like I did. I want to show you a really crazy tool, right? I have a little bit of time, and I want to introduce you to this really, really wild tool. It's called the clone tool. It's got some other names, but the most common name is the clone tool. And it also lets you paint, but not with color, not with light, not with shadow. It lets you paint with stolen pixels. Now, what we're about to do, we're going to undo. I'm going to get a little wild try. Then we're going to undo it and do something a little more thoughtful. All right? So this is what I'd like you to do. Could you make sure that you're on your new camel layer, the one in the back? Right? Not up here or there, right? On this particular camel. I would like you to look at your toolbar. We're looking for this tool, which is also part of a set, right? The letter S will let you find the set, S. Then I'd like you to press on it. The clone stamp, I love. The pattern stamp, I'm not really crazy about. I want to focus on this one, the clone stamp. Did you find it? I got to warn you, this one is crazy, right? It's going to take a little bit of thought. Now, here's the way it works. When I get this tool, you can't paint with it until you tell it what pixels you want to borrow. So please watch me first, and then we're going to do it together. So I'm going to get a little closer so it's easier for people to see what I'm doing. All right, I got my clone stamp. Now I'm on a Mac, I have to hold down Option. If you're on Windows, you have to hold down Alt. Now what does this mean? You hold down Option or Alt, you keep it down, and you click on the object you want to borrow. You just click once. Then you let go of your mouse, and you let go of Option or Alt. Now nothing happened yet, but when I start to paint over here, it's going to steal pixels starting with that camel's head. Now, if you look closely, I'm getting 2 cursors. The one on the right is the circle, which we got used to already. Looks like a paintbrush. You know, all the brushes in this program. But on my left, if you look, on the neck of the original camel is a plus sign, like a target. But I'm not shooting the camel. I'm borrowing those exact pixels. So I could actually see what I'm going to get. And anyone who does a lot of this has to learn to watch both the cursors, the one that's doing the painting and the one that's showing you where it's borrowed from. Now, the only trouble that I'm starting now is I'm still on the same layer, right? So it's starting to mix up with the original camel, and I don't really like that. So I'm going to Command Z to undo it, and I'm going to take this up a notch. I want you to undo yours, right? And we're going to do it a little smarter this time, right? So you might need your history palette. Command Z will undo one step, but if you did a whole bunch, you'll have to back up here. Did it work at all? All right, I want to try this little. You did? Great. I want to put this camel on a different layer so the 2 of them don't mix pixels. You know, they'll give me more freedom. So first off, let's go to your layers palette. And at the bottom here is a little plus sign that will create an empty layer for you. So let's just click it once. Now, that camel could be in front of the last camel or behind it, or you could just wait to see where you want it. Now, the only problem is I'm not going to steal pixels from this layer because this layer is empty, right? There's nothing there to borrow. So I'm going to have to make a change. Make sure on your brand new layer, you got your clone stamp tool. And let's take a look up here to see what it's got for us. this area here says sample current layer. That means borrow from the current layer. That won't work. There's nothing on this layer. So let's click it. You could say current layer and below. Will that work for me? It might, because that background camel is below. Or you could just say all layers. So this is what this means. You are going to paint on the new layer. But when you option click, it will borrow whatever it sees. So let's see if this is a good idea or not. I'm on the new layer. I set this to all layers. By the way, you won't see that option if you're in a different tool. You have to be in this tool. Sample all layers. All right. I'm going to hold down option. I'm going to click this camel head again. I'm going to start drawing it over here. Let me try that one more time. Now, you might be thinking, gee, I could have just copied and pasted, or I'm sure there are better ways. This is usually not for whole animals. This is usually like take someone's pimple out. You borrow skin nearby. I'm not really liking this at all. I'm going to Command Z it. Disappointed. What else? All right. Look, if you like yours, you can keep it. Right? I want to do something practical. The tool's fun, but I'm getting silly now. Right? I'm acting like it's midnight. I should be sharper right now at 2:30 in the afternoon. I have a mission now. This is practical. If I was doing this, say for a band, right, this is going to be the cover of their record, of their image online, they're not going to like something about this camel I want to show you. Look, I don't mind its private parts, but what the hell is this? That is just weird looking. Let's take it out with the clone stamp tool. All right. You guys ready? I want you to find the right layer, the one with the original camel. If you're not sure, poke it in the eye and see if it disappears. All right, that's the right one. Next, I want you to go to the window menu and get Navigator. Window menu, Navigator. The window menu, I'm going to Navigator. This will be the last thing for today. We'll make a little JPEG and then wrap it up. So this is the Navigator, which has this fabulous slider that I could zoom with, or this mountain. That's the way to zoom in. I could drag left to zoom out, back up, or click the little mountain. I want you to zoom in a lot. Then this red box is the cool part. You press in it and say, oh, that's his face, but I actually want that weird knee. So it lets you be very exact about what you're looking at. I love the Navigator, and I wish all programs had it. Okay? So what I want to do is be close enough that I could see these pixels here, its upper leg, because I'm going to borrow those pixels, and this area that I want to paint over. In this example, we don't need a new layer, right? We're working right on the camel. So make sure you now have the clone stamp. And I'd like you to do one thing with me. I overstepped my bounds. Can you go back to this feature here and change it back to current layer? It's the least confusing, and it's the best place to start. We're going to paint on this layer, and we're going to borrow from this layer. All camel. All right. On the camel layer, you got the right tool, and you reset this to current layer. Here I go. I'm going to come over here. I want this brush to be smaller. Right? Mine is really big. I don't know if yours is. Do you remember how you changed your brush size before? We did it with the dodge tool. I'm going to do it now, and you'll remember. I'm going to click up here, this little circle. And I'm going to bring the slider back and see if that looks good. This looks right, about that size. By the way, I'm at 36 pixels, if you want a recommendation. And I'll click this again. All right, too many details. Here I go. When you're actually ready to paint with pixels, hold down Option or Alt, click in an area that looks like it's got the look you want, then let go of Option or Alt, let go of the mouse, then take your mouse and simply paint. Now you'll notice, you'll see where you're borrowing from, and you can be very careful until it looks natural. Don't be logical, feel it. If you ever want to borrow different pixels, you just hold down Option again and click somewhere else, and you could add some of that if you want. You could steal anything, you know, so there's all kinds of things that people do with this, and some of them are good ideas and some are not. That might not be a great idea. I don't know. Right? So I want to mention a few things about this as I wrap it up. Did you have any luck with the, because I could do this again next class, a little bit more of the clone stamp. Did it work for anybody? It did? Because I thought more of you would be excited about this.
Maybe it's a slow day today.
Yeah, some days I like that, really. I gotta tell you, I'm glad I don't have a double. I know some of you do. Triple? I hope not. Anyway, this tool is great for borrowing skin to go over a blemish. Sometimes if you could get really good at it, you could add stuff. You know, borrow a sideburn to make a mustache. You know, it depends how crafty you are. It's very easy to give someone a third eye, you know, or do silly stuff. But in terms of actually trying to perfect things, it's got a lot of power. You know, I'd be tempted to add some dunes. I don't really like all that sky, but that's going to be a little difficult. I'm not going to walk you through it. I'm just going to point something out. If I did want to do that, I'd have to go to the correct layer. Just going to put some stuff away here.
Sorry, Professor.
Yes.
I have a question.
Please, don't be sorry.
Is that when I do it, it shows that could not use the clone stamp because the area to clone has not been defined?
Oh, great. That's an easy one to fix. So when you have to hold down Option. You're on a Mac. So you have to hold down Option, keep it down, then click on the area you want to borrow. Then let go of Option, and you could paint somewhere else. So what I'm doing right now is I'm holding down Option. Then I'm letting go of Option and the mouse, and now I could paint somewhere else. Thing is, I'm on the background layer, so that was not a good demonstration.
But when I click it, it shows that it didn't define. I can't hold it.
You're probably on the wrong layer. So tell me what layer you're on.
Camel?
Camel. Are you on the right camel layer? In other words, you could poke that layer in the eye to be sure. You know.
Yes.
You're on that layer.
Yeah.
Then you hold down Option, click on that one camel, go somewhere else, and start to paint. Is it still not working?
Yes.
So it's still not working, you're saying?
Yeah.
So listen,
not working.
Xu, because the class is about to end, could we do this in 5 minutes, you and I? We'll go over it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So right now what I want to do is say a couple things about how you'd finish up. Let's say this was it, right? There's more we could do, right? The end of class though, how would you wrap it up? Well, one, you want to make sure that the PSD is current, right? So this way tomorrow, if you're like, you know what, I need a herd of camels, you have the document ready. So you want to make sure this stays current. And all I mean by that is simply File menu, Save. Right? It's going to save the same document with the same name and in the same folder. We should do that every few minutes. But what do I want to do with the finished work? Is it going into a movie? You know, I might want a JPEG. Is it going on the internet? I definitely would want it to be a JPEG. This is not a JPEG. It's a layered document. It's a Photoshop document. And the only person who could use it is someone else with Photoshop. So whenever you're done with the original, right, you got to make a copy for your audience. Let's do that. So make sure you just save this one. And now let's just go to File menu, Save As, to make a new copy in a different format. for our client. File menu, save as. So you'll notice, hopefully it's looking at today's folder. It's showing you the current name. But down here it says format, where you get to see what other formats are available. And you know, there's some of these I've never used. I never worked for Pixar, right? But I make a lot of JPEGs and GIFs, TIFFs, a bunch of these. We want JPEG, not 2000 or stereo, just plain old JPEG. If extensions are turned on your computer, you're going to see it actually put in the name. If it doesn't, you're still making a JPEG. It's up to you whether you want to type the extension or not. Macs will typically do it for you. Windows, it depends on your options. Just make sure it's a JPEG here and simply click Save. When you make a JPEG, it asks you a little bit about quality and file size. I'm going to leave this at medium because we don't have time to go over the details of it. Medium's usually the good choice anyway, and click OK. That JPEG I could put on a website. So I want to point out something. It put the JPEG away. I'm still on the Photoshop document. Here are my layers. But if I look in my folder, there's the JPEG. It's flattened, no layers. Here's the PSD, the one I'm looking at now. This is the one I'd open if I want to work on it. This is the one I'd send to someone or I'd put in my movie. I know some people are going to have to leave in 2 minutes, so I want to ask right now, does anybody have any questions, particularly about PSD versus JPEG or anything that we just did? No, you're good? Just want to see if I'm leaving anybody out. All right. So in that case, this is what I want to say, right? I'm giving very little homework this semester. I hope everyone did that one, class 4. Currently, there's no new homework. There will be soon, though. I want to tell you a little bit about what to expect this week. On Thursday, I want to do more Photoshop. I want to take it a little bit further. More about sizing and embellishing levels, making things more beautiful. More about montaging, adding elements, hopefully fresh new elements. But next Tuesday, I'm going to do a last bit of Photoshop and start to combine it with HTML.
Professor?
Yes, Remy.
We don't have class next Tuesday. We have to follow the Monday schedule. So
Oh, you glad you said that. Hey, you know what? Let me get my handout in front of me because I make less mistakes when I'm staring at my own handout. Oh, yeah, I didn't mention that on the handout. That's so weird. Give me 1 second. You're right. We have no class at all next Tuesday. So, you know, I'll see you Thursday. Oh, that's why I didn't put it on the handout because I was going to do it on Thursday. So announced, no class. So Thursday we do have class this week. We're going to do more Photoshop, a little HTML. What I meant to do next Tuesday, we're going to do the following Thursday, which is, this Thursday, just Photoshop. Next Thursday, Photoshop with HTML again. And why? I'm heading into a review for the midterm. So this week, no concerns about midterms, just Photoshop. Next Thursday, we're going to have a little break together. Next Thursday, we're going to review some HTML, get ready for the midterm. So don't worry about it. I got you covered, right? That's the plan. Thank you for pointing that out. I almost gave everyone the worst direction. But look, since we brought it up, I might as well finish this out. Next Tuesday, BMCC is going to have Monday classes. So if you have no Monday classes, you're off next Tuesday, right? Hopefully your Monday classes, those teachers will make announcements, or should have yesterday, to let you know what next week looks like. So I don't want to mess with that. That's not my game. I'm just a Tuesday, Thursday guy. All right, folks, listen, I know a lot of you have to go. I took attendance. That was kind of fun. Again, I always look at my email for questions. Looking around. again, if anyone has issues you need me to take quicker action on, tomorrow is Wednesdays are always a great day for me to clean up. I check on my email 100 times on Wednesday. So if you need anything from me, send me an email. No last questions for me? Shuying, hang out though. I want to help you with that tool. All right. And then anyone who wants to watch is welcome to stay. All right. If you prefer to get going, I'll see you Thursday. All right. See you, everybody. It was a pleasure working with you. Even
Take
you,
care, Professor.
people. See you all. All right. See you all on Thursday. I'm going to go over Shuying and see what's up with it. Yeah, Martin. Did you have something to say?
Bye.
Oh, bye. Bye-bye. Nice to see you. All right. So I'm going to help Shuying out with this tool and see what's up. You know what I want to do, though? I want to, last time screen sharing helped me figure it out. So I'm going to turn off my screen share. All right. Now you could turn on your screen share.
Yeah.
All right. So first, I see you're on the correct layer. That's good, right? That looks like that big camel. Click OK, right? Now I want you, you're in the right tool, so that's also OK. Let me just see if this is an emergency. No. All right. I want you to hold down. Let me just, I want you to hold down Option and keep it down. Right? So on your keyboard, hold down the Option key, keep it down. Now, I'm not seeing the right symbol, so I don't know what just happened. Click OK. All right. Are you really holding down the Option key? Because it doesn't look like you are.
This one?
The Option key. Look at your keyboard.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The one that says Option on it.
Oh, yeah.
Hold it down and click on his head. All right. Now let go of the mouse and let go of Option. Let go of both. You're still holding down Option.
Yeah.
Click once. Just click. Now let go. Don't paint yet. Shuying, listen to me, okay? Right? Look, can you open up your history palette? He's got 3 eyes now.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Sorry, because my English is not good.
You know what? You're going to be very good at this, so I'm not worried, right? But it's going to be, we're going to have to copy a really weird-looking camel now. But can you, do you know how to open your history palette up?
Yeah.
Go down to H. It's an alphabet. You were right. The window menu. Now go back. You were in the right place. History. There you go. Click that. And yeah, you see how his face is back now?
Yeah.
All right, stop. This time I want you to listen to me exactly. Don't do anything on your own because you're not doing it right yet. Hold down the Option key. Now you know which key it is. Keep it down. I want you to click only once on his face. Just one time. Just once. Now let go of the mouse. Let go of the Option key. All right? Your hands are let go.
Oh, yeah.
Now move over. Keep going before you paint. Now press and paint. Press and paint.
Oh, I got it.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. That was fun. No worries at all. All right. It looks like it's just you and me.
Okay.
It's a pleasure working with you. Your English is pretty good.
Thank you.
You're very, very smart. So I'm sure you're going to be an expert.
Thank you.
You want. All right. I'll see you Thursday.
Okay. See you. Thank you, Professor. Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.